you want to figure out who is likely to be your customer, whose problems you can solve the best, and then target those businesses and put a lot more time and attention into going after those leads than a big brand could ever do.
Hi, Sam Mestman is our guest today. Sam is the head of marketing for OWC, Other World Computing, the CEO of We Make Movies, and the founder of LumaForge. He's also the lead contributor for the largest Final Cut Pro X website in the world, fcp.co, and has worked with many major brands, including Apple, ESPN, Glee, and Break Media.
He's the marketing consultant for Orphan Starfish Foundation, and his current passion is video literacy and bringing the We Make Movies smartphone studio mobile filmmaking workshops to communities around the world. Sam's also a very good friend, and it's a pleasure to have him on the podcast today.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for making the time today.
Marcus, it's a pleasure to be here. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. Very good, thanks. I really appreciate it. And what we're doing is having a conversation about marketing in a way that's hopefully going to help people who've got small, medium-sized businesses to grow. And I'm really interested just in terms of your experience and what you're currently seeing within the world of marketing in terms of what's working. So I think a good place to start is asking the question, what do you consider to be great marketing, or the essence of great marketing?
I'd say the essence of great marketing is finding a way to encapsulate the essential value proposition of a product or service or community or whatever it is, and being able to articulate that in a clear, simple way to the people you are trying to reach. It sounds simple, but most just about everything I think does this poorly for the most part.
In terms of doing it poorly, what would be an example of that, or where do you think people are missing out that they could better represent their product or their service or their brand?
I think somewhere along the way, I think a lot of companies, corporations, etc., have shifted to the bait and switch style marketing, where they want to sell you based on price, or they want to sell you based on some kind of thing that is not the thing they're actually selling. And so they want to deliver an experience that is not real, a heightened experience. If you go to a restaurant, or it's summed up by like fast food, right? So fast food, you go to Burger King, wants to sell you like the Big Mac is the greatest thing that you've ever eaten. And then you go and you get a Big Mac and it's kind of a half-assed hamburger.
Right.
And the experience does not match the marketing. So, my personal view on great marketing is designed for the long term, where you're going to deliver on the experience you're advertising and set expectations for the customer so that the expectation meets reality, and then you get happy customers, and it creates a long-term virtuous cycle that would create referrals. Whereas creating a different experience in the marketing than the one you're actually providing, I think will typically create frustrated customers.
That's really interesting. And we certainly see that, I think, a lot within the world of coaching and programs and training programs. This is going to change your life. And now with YouTube, the way a lot of the YouTube ads are going, in that here's how to lie in bed and earn a six-figure salary every month. It's just kind of like increasingly levels of outrageous claims. So on this McDonald's thing, let's say you're opening up the burger joint next door, Macbeth's or McDuff's Burgers or whatever. When you're up against McDonald's, who are promising the best meal ever, the best burger you've ever had, how do you compete?
I think you do it on a much smaller level, right? You're not going to compete with the global McDonald's. That's not possible. What you can easily do with the marketing budget is more or less stand outside of McDonald's and hand people burgers and be like, hey, these burgers are better, go there, and grab their customers.
That's actually really interesting. I'll sort of be more specific. Actually, that answers a whole different question, which I think is great, of how you compete on a much bigger scale with a much smaller budget. Maybe we'll come back to that in a second. But I meant, if you don't want to make outrageous claims, if your chief competitor is making massive outrageous claims that they can't deliver on, and you want to take your methodology of, let's say, value-based, something which is much more down to earth, which is going to create a long-term and not overset expectations. What's one way of competing when you're up against people who are making the massive claims?
The truth is, what you just need to know is that's their weakness. So their weakness is their claims are not matching their experience. So the way that you fight it is to is with substance, right? And to referrals and having, word of mouth and positive word of mouth. And if you're the nice part about word of mouth when you deliver a product that matches the experience is you don't have to spend a lot of marketing at that point, because people are organically telling other people about what you're doing. So you can have fundamentally different tactics. You don't really want to go head to head with marketing spends against people who are making outrageous claims. Typically, the best plan is to let their claims expose themselves, and then over time have people become more aware of what you're doing. So the key is, how do you get people to come in the door and incentivize them to tell the truth about the products and services you're offering?
That's really interesting. So let's take that and drill that down to a local business and something that they might do. Let's say a local video marketing company.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
Fire away.
So they're up against, let's say, big media companies. What's sort of one way that a local marketing company can actually try and sort of use that methodology?
Typically, what you might do with the video marketing company is, you're going to play on the regional level. You're not going to play on the global level. The truth of the matter is, most large, giant companies will look at small to medium-sized businesses as distractions, frustrating. They're going to go after the big brands, and they're going to go after all of these other things. So you want to figure out who is likely to be your customer, whose problems you can solve the best, and then target those businesses and put a lot more time and attention into going after those leads than a big brand could ever do.
I love that. Right, spending that time one-on-one, crafting it much more carefully in a way that the big brand won't be able to, because their resources are just too split. Even though they may have a lot of people on it, you can actually get to know your local area, your local business. Now, thank you. So I realized that I've worked with you at this point across 4 different organizations, or 4 different sort of company projects, between We Make, directly and indirectly. We Make Movies, the community side, the film community. WM Creative, the professional services side of We Make Movies. OWC, indirectly, I've been doing some writing for Other World Computing, and Orphan Starfish Foundation. And I'll put some links below the video. And it's a very broad range. What motivates you, or what drives you when you're currently working on, well, I guess 4 different organizations at least at this point, and they're quite diverse. One being a movie making creative industry or community, professional services within that, with the videos and so forth, with the tech industry, and then helping orphans and orphanages.
Well, I think actually they might seem all very different, but in the end, they all are the same thing, right? Which is, my sort of life's work has been trying to figure out how to make storytelling and filmmaking more cost-effective and efficient, mostly so that I could afford to do it myself and not need anyone else. That's primarily where it came from. But over time, it's become glaringly obvious that everyone else has a similar problem. So each of the different things that I, put my time into tend to be about the same thing. So, on the OWC side, it's about how to leverage technology to make storytelling and content creation more seamless and affordable and easier, and having better workflows. That's the technical part. We make movies is more of the human part. How do you get together and actually, develop and create content and then shoot it in the real world with other people more effectively? And then Orphan Starfish is for people without resources, how are they able to tell their stories better, and improve their communities and lives? So it's all aspects of the same thing, just slightly different versions.
I love that. Really, that common storytelling thread across all different aspects. And it's really interesting. Can you tell me a bit about the Haiti situation? And just for people who are watching, a bit of context. So Orphan Starfish Foundation, which is a community-based or charity-based in New York, has orphanages around the world. And it's very much about helping people who've come from impoverished or abused backgrounds or child trafficking, giving these orphans opportunities, giving them education, helping them get off the streets and create very solid lives. And it's been highly successful so far, and it continues to be so. One of the programs was this smartphone studio workshop where We Make Movies would take training, take video training, filmmaking training into these communities and working with the orphanages. So there's my intro. Please feel free to amend, adjust, or retell if I missed anything out. And can you tell, if you could tell me the Haiti story, that's I'd love to hear that.
The big picture on Haiti is things are really, really not good there. And they've been really, really bad for quite some time. And specifically the kids at the orphanage there on the Orphan Starfish side, many of the kids, and for those who don't know about Orphan Starfish, this is largely impoverished kids, children of abuse, indigenous children, children of trafficking, etc. These are the ones who are ending up at orphanages who typically have the worst of the worst stories to begin with. And then when you compound this in a place like Haiti, and what's going on there with all of the gangs and literally earthquakes, a lot of these kids are in the orphanage because of what happened in the previous earthquake. There was an earthquake there about 2 years ago, or I think it's 2 years ago, that destroyed the orphanage that we were working with after literally our first session with them. And it was really sad. And we were like, well, I guess there's no way to reach, I guess we can't continue teaching there. That was our response because, by default, we are not nearly as resilient as some of these kids are. And so we would just assume, okay, I guess we have to give up. But the kids in Haiti, despite the fact that their orphanage was destroyed, got together and found the one spot, grabbed the generator and found the one spot in this field where they could have class. And we're like, when are we having class again? And
Amazing.
Despite the fact that their orphanage was destroyed, reached out to us and found a way. And so, of course, we continued to show up. And, fast forward to present day, and they've made numerous movies at this point. There's one kid, Kendi, specifically, who's a little bit of the ringleader. And, he actually got a scholarship to come to the US last year, made it all the way to the embassy. They asked him one question and turned him away. He got stuck in Port-au-Prince, nearly feared for his life, eventually made it back to a safer place, and has been waiting for the last year to try and find a way to get to the States to actually work with his scholarship. And it looks like it's going to happen this year. Hopefully this fall he's finally going to make it out here. But when you talk about stories of resilience and all of that, what those kids are going through and able to do and still finding a way, I think many of our children in the US, when they start complaining about things and their anxiety, maybe need to re-examine some of that.
It's really extraordinary. And there's so many different things we can talk about with it, whether it's the human resilience or the power of creativity. Keeping it within, it feels sort of strange, but keeping it within the marketing context of this discussion, it's very fascinating approach to you've taught them this aspect of marketing through the videoing and how to tell their stories on camera. He's also been able to market his story successfully within the embassy, within an OSF, and able to get his message out there.
Yeah, look, I mean, ideally the purpose of the foundation, is to teach people how to fish. It's not, one of those charities that is interested in, okay, let's go send food, and let's figure out how to, just keep people existing. The idea is to send technology and education out to places so that people can positively impact their communities in a lasting way and transform, poverty into prosperity. And that's the idea behind the foundation. And Kendi is just one example of that, in my opinion. There's tons of kids.
Yeah, it's great, and it's great to be involved with it. So in the time we've got remaining, what I'd like to do is just ask you a bit about bootstrapping and the startups and starting up, how one can really get their marketing message out there on limited budgets. And I know at least, well, two startups you've been involved with. There may well be more, but let's say we'll take We Make Movies and also LumaForge. So maybe we should start with LumaForge. So when you created the company, servers which could work, which could bring creatives together, help multiple people edit film together, and so forth. How did you do the marketing at the beginning? Like, did you have investment funding? Did it just sort of take off organically, or what did you do to get LumaForge moving?
I leveraged my network, honestly. So, I built and designed a product, which was the Jellyfish, which was a computer server, that's designed for teams of video editors. And I built it to solve my own problems first that I was seeing in the real world. And then I took that to other people who had similar problems and started with those. And, you can start from a very niche audience and basically, if you want to make money, solve a problem, and you have to really understand the audience who is likely to purchase your product or service. And if you do, then you know where to reach them, you know how to reach them because you understand them and you know where they're going for their information. And then you work backwards from that, which is how do you effectively supply that information to the sources they're going to seek answers. And that can be through targeted niche blogs and thought leadership around specific topics that are of interest. It can be partnering with communities and newsletters and various places that are organically already, reaching these people. It can be through social media accounts. There's many, many different ways to the same place. It can even be in-person communities and finding, getting out into the local town square where these people are, or various other places with the right marketing materials. There's many different ways to do this, but in the end, it's always the same thing, which is figuring out who your customers are and who is likely to purchase the product or service, and then putting your messaging in front of them in as simple and efficient and inexpensive way as possible.
So what would be one example? Will be one example of a way that you got that message out?
So one example was literally we built the product for LumaForge way back when, the server, and the first place I marketed it to was the community that I was a part of, the Final Cut community, and the chief website for that was fcp.co, and I had a relationship with the editor-in-chief there, and I just started publishing stories about what it could do and how it did it. And then as we got customers, publishing case studies there, and those reached people, and then we were able to turn a few customers into more customers, and over time, this has it feeds on itself, and if you're patient with it, that's the other thing, is you have to be patient with marketing. And a lot of people are not patient with bootstrapping. They want it to be their full-time job immediately, and they can get into growth hacks and all of these other things. But what I found is that if you're not on a solid foundation, it can be a way to lose a lot of money quickly. So, this is, it's hard to be patient with something. But I would recommend, if you're bootstrapping, to have your business start as part-time and gradually over time feed it until it becomes large enough to be your full-time job, and then you don't need a huge marketing budget.
I love that. So you started with your network. There was content marketing through the writing, the sales, and then more networking, and then continuing to feed it that way up until the point when you successfully sold the company.
Pretty much.
Which is fantastic.
None of it was easy. And we certainly, if I could go back in time, I would have probably gone to business school in a slightly different and more efficient way. But in the end, it was a very, very good education, I think, and prepared me for a lot of the stuff I'm dealing with now.
Absolutely. And I think that the closing message of patience, which is not something I hear. Very few people are talking about patience in terms of the long.
Well, you understand why that is, right? Is because these marketing gurus are looking to get paid and collect as many clients as possible. They're not really that interested in the financial health of the companies they're serving. They're interested in their financial health. And so because of that, you have people who are very much in a hurry to get done and get off to the next client.
It makes sense. Scarcity, time sensitivity, make the sale, buy today. There is so much more to talk about. I've realized it's now we're beginning our 4th year of working together in various different formats since January 2020, and I get a lot of inspiration. I've learned a lot through our conversations, and always learning new things. And thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate you.
My pleasure, Marcus. Anytime, and happy to be on the show, and appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for watching or listening in. Please make sure you follow our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you'd like email updates about future episodes, or to find out more about how we can help your business, please sign up at freedthinking.com. I'm Marcus Freed. Keep thinking freely and stay creative. Goodbye.